Hey everybody, welcome to the Bayou Ballers podcast. I'm your host Tay. Got my co-host over there, man, Trey, and we are here to deliver some Saints news, a little bit of wide receiver drama, and happiness. Finally, and we're at the end of August, the long month of August that feel like it never was gonna end. We finally here. Football is a week away. How you feeling today, Trey, bro?
Bro, I'm feeling good, bro. Now you know I done been going to wall on Twitter with this whole backup quarterback thing, but it's been good, bro. It's
Mhm.
uh, it just lets you know that football season almost here when we start talking about trivial things like that.
Already, Trey is getting into it with it's friendly fire.
Yeah,
With the friendly fire Saints fan on Saints fan. I'm about QB2. And if y'all looking at the screen, this is the facts segment where we touch on the Saints. But what I have up here is the Saints 53 man roster after the week 3 preseason cuts. Um, this does have the injury reserve players as well on here. So shout out to Saints Wire by USA Today. So we're gonna
Mhm.
get through this. We're gonna go through all the Saints who made the team, touch on a couple players who stood out. As y'all know, Trey laid out his 53-man roster projections last week, and a couple surprises, but he had some right, had some wrong, which is
Mhm.
normal. But
It
we're
happens.
gonna we're gonna get to it. What you thought about it when you saw the cuts when you was watching it? Because obviously you had
Yeah,
your own list.
yeah, man. Like my thing really was I was surprised by the safety decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know in mine, I know why I messed up on mine. Like I'm so used to Ugo Amadi being in the slot, I
Mm-hmm.
listen to him as a corner, even though he's technically listed as a safety. But you know, we kind of went in with four safeties on the roster, and one of them being JT Gray, which he's a special teamer. Like
Special
we not
teamer.
looking for him to contribute there, and we run a lot of three safety sets. So I thought we were going to keep. I think I had five safeties on the main roster, but we ended
Oh,
up
he is
keeping
deep at corner
four.
though.
Yeah, but we deep at corner, and so
Yep. So
some
might
of our
be
guys
less three safeties, might more four corners, three
more
corners.
dime, yeah, which is fine with me. I mean, I think when you
Mhm.
got a bunch of guys that's kind of locked down their own right, you can just roll out with that, which might be
Mhm.
good. So I'm interested to see how that secondary looks. To be quite
Okay.
honest with you.
Okay. We're gonna get into this list, y'all. I'm gonna start scrolling down here. Um, we're not gonna touch too much on the quarterbacks. We know the quarterbacks who's gonna make it. We got Derek Carr, Jake Hannon, Spencer Rattler, of course, our two young guys.
Mhm.
If you want to touch on, you mentioned it a little bit. The battle between the
Mhm.
backups between our young guys, and you was talking to people on Twitter. If you want to
Yeah,
touch on it, you can go ahead for it. Knock it out. Knock yourself out,
yeah,
Trey. Go ahead.
yeah. Now, for those that think that everybody gets their opinion from media and everything, I would like to point you to May 10th. Follow me
Mm-hmm.
on Future NBA Golf, and you will see where I stated 2 weeks after Spencer Rattler was drafted, I don't think Dennis Allen will announce our QB2. It's just if something happened to Derek, we gonna see who roll up out there,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing's changed here in August. Yeah, on the field wise, we felt like Spencer Rattler is clearly the QB2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a question about it. If Derek Carr stubbed his toe tonight, it's gonna be number 18 taking the field against the Carolina Panthers. But I think you still want to continue to keep that competitive edge for both of these guys. I
Mm-hmm.
think we're being naive. We think the two of them didn't push each other to be better. With Spencer, just I think being the more naturally talented, that's starting to take a little bit more light than Jake. But to say that Jake hasn't improved from what he looked like last season to what he looked like this year, I would think would be doing him a disservice as well.
All
But
right.
I kind of think it's kind of like the Titans situation last year. You had Ryan Tannehill, who was essentially going into a 1-year deal, and you had Malik Willis, who you had drafted, and you had Will Levis, who you had drafted. And you let them bail it out in the preseason. You didn't really name a guy. And then the inevitable happened. Ryan Tannehill gets hurt. They have their little practice leading up to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And Coach Vrabel said, "Hey, I'm rolling with Will Levis." And now they have their first round or their quarterback one for the future, hopefully. And they were able to get Malik Willis a draft pick for him.
Mhm.
This past week. So the Packers traded for him. So
Mhm.
I can see that being something similar. I think that's what the Saints want to see out of Jake Hayner and Spencer Rattler. They want Spencer to eventually be that guy that's the QB of the future for us, and Jake being a guy that a bunch of teams that I think next year are going to be looking for backup quarterbacks and bridge quarterbacks and things like that.
Mhm.
That's a guy that, if Jake Hayner develops well, he can get a pick for us. And hopefully that's something that happens. But Dennis Allen didn't name a quarterback too, and he doesn't need to, because all it was going to do is have us clamoring every week for Spencer Rattler to get in the game, which we can still do that, whether we know who the QB2 is or not. All three of them are going to dress. All three of them are going to get a certain amount of reps in practice. It is
Mhm.
what it is, but the signs are on the wall. If they wanted to hand the job to Jake Hayner, we just was talking about it, they would have not drafted Spencer Rattler.
Mhm.
This was a guy who a few years ago was a projected top 10 pick. Things didn't go well, which is one of the reasons why I love what we're doing with keeping that pressure on him, because he's been in a situation where he got comfortable.
Mhm.
He was a projected top 10 pick. Oklahoma's undefeated. There's no reason why I would be benched. He gets benched. Caleb Williams comes in the story, right? So
Mhm.
keep that pressure, keep that intensity, and I think it's going to make Spencer better, and I think it's going to make Jake better. And I don't
Mhm.
think he's going to be our quarterback for the future, but maybe if we can offload him to somebody else and kind of get a fifth or sixth out of that, I think it's a success.
Okay.
I'm interested. It's
Did
open. I think everybody got different thoughts on it. What about you in terms of um, how we're handling it, at least from a public standpoint?
I don't mind not announcing who the officially who the QB2 is, but I think most fans know. We watched the
Mm-hmm.
preseason. I think if Jake Hanna was the QB2, he's had a year in the system. It was laid out for him to beat out Spencer Rattler. I think most Saints fans are people who pay attention to the Saints more than just like the um
The
regular fan
casual,
who just
yeah.
pay attention to their team, just like we focus on our team, but we watch the league as well.
Mm-hmm.
Most people know Spencer is a more talented, has better arm than Jake Hayner. I think we know he's a better improviser, scrambler, things like
Mm-hmm.
that. Jake Hayner, I think he'll have to beat Spencer out with the intangibles. Sort of like just being accurate, precision, things like that. Smarts,
Mm-hmm.
knowing the playbook, knowing when to check it down, knowing not to go for the big play. Things that Spencer Rattler is accused of, basically, just like trying to be extra, go big, never
Mm-hmm.
take the small 5 yard check down when you always going for a 30 yard bound, 40 yard, things like that. So I think
Mm-hmm.
if Jake would have had the job, he would if Jake would have won the job, I think he would have been announced QB2.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer has won it. He's a rookie. The whole
Mm-hmm.
fan base has been clamoring over him since he been drafted. Like this, we finally got
Yeah.
us one. A low key guy. He dropped to us. So Dennis
Yeah.
Allen is smart, but
Yeah.
he knows fans are still going to be asking for Rattler.
Yeah. And my
He,
thing is, bro, if you can find me any press conference on the 31 other teams where they announce who their backup quarterback is, I'll leave it
Mhm.
alone. But if you can't find that, I ain't trying to worry about it.
Come on, man. You
Because
know you rolling with Saints fans. But we gonna get to the other positions, y'all. Touched on our quarterbacks. We all know who QB2 is, y'all. Just like Trey said, if somebody stub a toe, we gonna see number 18 running in.
yep.
Now we get to our running backs. Pretty self-explanatory. We don't gotta spend too much time on this as well. But I think we both agreed
Yeah.
that this would be the three. But you did
Mm-hmm.
like James Robinson as well, though. He's on the outs,
Mm-hmm.
as we see right here. You did like
Mm-hmm.
James Robinson. Are you shocked that they picked Mims over James Robinson?
No, because I
Mhm.
had I had Mims on my final roster, and I felt like James Robinson had done enough to get an opportunity somewhere else,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to just being a guy on the sideline for us. Like I don't think he had earned enough to be over Jordan Mims.
Mhm.
So seeing Jordan Mims make the roster was good. See Kendra Miller got put on injured reserve. So shout
Mhm.
out to Marlon. It's rainy though on Twitter. He kind of mentioned that as a possibility. When I was saying, look, I was like, man, Kendrick got to be gone, or at the very least, some find something. Like I'm not giving
Damn.
him a spot over these guys. And he was like, nah, like he probably gonna make the team, but they're gonna put him on injured reserve, give him an opportunity. But
Mhm.
I'm fine with it because I think a guy like Jordan Mims who put the work
Deserved it.
in gets on the 53. And Kendra Miller, if he's going to be what a lot of people are hoping that he's going to be, he has an opportunity now to prove himself. And he has, I guess, 4 weeks and then a 3-week practice window to get
I,
healthy and be active or something like that now.
I'll say this. Kendra is looking at a scary time right now because if
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Mims performs well, while this 4 week that Kendra is out, he might Dennis Allen already. It seems like he's already on the downside of
Yeah.
Dennis Allen. I don't know
Yeah.
how much Dennis Allen has input in the offense, but he's not on Dennis Allen good
Yeah.
side. So
Right.
if Jordan Mims performs well, and of course Alvin and Jamal are holding
Mm-hmm.
their weight, it's going to be pretty hard to find time for Kendra Miller in the lineup. So
Right. And
Clint
then
Kubiak
knowing
gonna
we
have to get
have
real special.
Right. Then knowing we have needs elsewhere, you might feel like, hey, if we release him and get another roster spot, whether that be safety, corner,
Yep.
linebacker, wide receiver, D line, O line.
Defensive tackle. Yeah.
So, it's a lot of different things that we can do with a
Hmm.
roster spot if Kendra just isn't ready.
Hmm.
And
And you
we
never
just chalk
know.
it up as a loss. That's
And
it is
speaking
what
of
it is.
James Robinson, on
Mm-hmm.
this it says it wouldn't be surprised if he's brought back to the practice squad.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing like Jonathan Abram last year.
Yeah.
When he was playing games in the practice
Mm-hmm.
squad, then you'll see him in the game. I'm like, damn,
Mm-hmm.
he was just on the practice squad.
Yeah, and we actually just an update on that. James Caboti
Hmm.
got inserted on the practice squad. We signed him today, and then
Okay,
I believe we signed a running back from the Minnesota Vikings. Who's kind of
I
like
saw him. I
a kick
forgot his
returner.
name.
So it's an African name. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm gonna butcher the man name today. So, but welcome to the Saints. Welcome to Who That Nation, baby. But
Welcome to the
oh
Saints,
yeah,
my
we filled
man.
some spots there.
Get your check. On to fullback, self-explanatory. The only thing is shocking here is that they didn't even Taysom a fullback. Taysom Hill and
Yeah.
Adam Prentice. Not too much to say about this position because the fullbacks are dying out. Excuse my language, but I think there's only a few fullbacks in the league: Kyle Juszczyk, Adam Prentice, Patrick Rashard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's the guy I know. I
That's
know
the
they
main
have a
ones I
few
know.
more, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's the main ones I know, and I only know Adam Prentice because I'm a Saints fan. Support, I'm gonna say that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get to the wide receivers.
Oh yeah.
A couple surprises. Well, one
Yeah.
surprise for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Mason Tipton
Yeah.
has made the roster. I posted a short of this on our YouTube that you said
Yeah.
that what you talk about Mason Tipton, how you liked him, and he might be a practice squad guy. He
Yeah.
beat out St. Brown for the position
Mm-hmm.
because I'm assuming that's the guy
On
that
the
he beat
practice
out.
squad. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is?
It was a surprise, and like you said, like our last episode, I was like, I mean, he could make it, but I always felt like he might be a practice squad guy that we call up if
Hmm.
Rashid Shaheed isn't totally ready by week 1 or week 2,
Hmm.
which there's some mixed information about his availability. Um, and so with Mason also kind of being a kick returner, this could signify that we might see Rashid Shaheed in spot duty in that role, and they may, invest more of his time being that number 2 wide receiver, which would be cool as well. But yeah, man, I had St. Brown making it. I thought, his size, him bringing kind of a different dimension, because now I think with our lineup, A.T. Perry is really that only contested catch guy we have on the
Hmm.
roster. So that's why I thought St. Brown might make it, but he didn't do himself any favors in that final preseason game. He did catch a touchdown but also dropped a touchdown. And so,
Hmm.
and then who knows when you couple that along with practice, and I think he only had 46 yards receiving on 4 receptions in the preseason. And I think one of the reasons, and I could be wrong, is maybe a guy like Mason Tipton with the noise he was making in camp,
Hmm.
you kind of don't want to run the risk of releasing him and another
Hmm.
team picking him up and adding him on their 53. So we
Right.
add him on our 53. You let a guy like St. Brown go through waivers, which they did. And they signed St. Brown and Kevin Austin Jr. Onto our practice squad. So I think Stanley Morgan, Sampson, and Shaq, they aren't on our roster yet. But there is still one spot left, if I'm not mistaken.
And I wouldn't be surprised if I see St. Brown suited up.
Mm-hmm.
If an injury happens, to the wide receivers, like we said, Shaheed, we don't know what his status will be. So, and that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yep.
Most teams like to keep 6 receivers. So if
Mm-hmm.
one gets injured, I can see them calling up St. Brown. But I would have to say that is a shocker.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
didn't know the Saints would do that, but hey, because we're pretty thin at the receiver position outside of
Yeah.
our top two, so
Yeah.
we need some type of spark there, and
Yeah.
maybe Mason Tipton can show some what's the word
Life
I'm
or
looking for,
something.
Trey?
And from a
Yeah, like
practice squad standpoint, I was surprised that Kevin Austin Jr. made it over Samson Nakua.
hmm
Just because I was hearing his name a lot in practice, Kevin Austin being that, but just felt like when the games were played, we
he
saw
was nowhere.
89 all the time.
Right,
I
right,
mean,
exactly.
he made the splash plays, the game winning drive against Arizona. He
hmm
seemed to be Spencer's favorite target on that drive. The
hmm
106-yard return, which should have been
Nah.
109 for a touchdown,
Who
but
was that guy? Who was that? Who was
there was
that running
Samson.
next to him? No,
Oh, who was right next
celebrating
to him?
when he should have
I
picked
can't
up
even
the
remember.
block. He was
He should have picked
celebrating
the block.
before. I think it was. I want to say Abram, but I don't want to say Abram. It was somebody, but I was pissed off watching that play. I
But I was
said,
just like, turn up. I just felt like he was too close to the
oh,
sun. Like, just turn up a little bit. But it is
right.
what it
But
is.
he
What's
ain't
the
have no more. That was 106 yards straight. He was out of it. He probably needed a mask after that to breathe.
Yeah, for
Man,
sure.
but let's get to the tight ends, man. Tight ends, once again, Trey hit on all of them. We already
Mhm.
know Jawan Johnson, Foster Moreau under contract, but our guy, Dallin
Yeah.
Hoker from Colorado State. Colorado State. Dang, I
Yep.
butchered that Colorado. Damn. But Dallin Dallin Hoker, we I think I first seen him against one, of course, prime team Colorado. He had a great
Mhm.
showing against those guys. And I think that probably was his coming out party.
I think so
He
too.
made the team. You were spot on with it. What do you like about Hoker?
Man, I just like his versatility as a pass catcher and a blocker, and you can line him up all over.
hmm
I mean, he has the look of a George Kittle, but I think even like I said, like when my first game watching him was the game against Colorado. I'm like, who the
Uh,
hell is this
who is
dude
that? That
doing
one hand
everything?
catch?
And and I will say the big thing I love about him is Yak. I think that's what we missing.
Yep.
Jawan
We
Johnson's
definitely need
pretty
that.
good. I think Ross Jackson kind of did some numbers. I think he averages like 4 yards after catch, which is pretty
Mhm.
good. I think it would have put him second on the team or something like that. So he's pretty good there.
Who was first?
But
Shaheed?
Shaheed, I think it was. But
Yeah.
like when you think of a tight end position and a guy that can probably even give you more than that, like Dalen Holker, and if he is anything close to like a George Kittle and what George Kittle does after the catch, like as I'm talking, I'm thinking about what he was doing to us in the dome, like dragging Marcus Williams
CJ.
like 10 yards. Like
Oh yeah, that was that on that
so
third down, on that 3rd and 1.
yeah, so there's a lot invested in Dallin Holker. I think he's somebody they've identified that can take over that tight end one position at some
hmm
point. Had an unfortunate injury right before the San Fran game. Think tweaked his ankle or something like that. So we didn't get to get see a ton of them because I think he was going to really get some first team reps in San Francisco, but unfortunately didn't pan out. But
hmm
it gives him a chance, keep him on 53, get him healthy, work with them a little bit. And I think he's somebody that will see maybe paying off probably relatively soon in this young season. So
Okay.
mhm.
I like him.
You
Um,
like him?
although I have to say this, we do have a wide receiver transition to tight end with Jawan.
That's true.
He's an ultimate pass catcher. Foster Monroe is pass catcher,
Traditional,
blocker. Yeah.
traditional
Traditional
backup tight end. You know,
New England Patriot type tight end.
that's great.
So we can use a young guy who can, like I said, we need guys who can catch contested balls, and
Mm-hmm.
Hoka can definitely do that. And I think he'll see some playing time for sure with
Yep.
our
And
tight end.
no, you're right. And Michael Jacobson actually made the practice squad. So 6'6", big body tight end had a pretty bad end to the last preseason game.
Pretty bad.
So the cut wasn't surprising,
Uh-huh.
but having him is kind of like that red zone threat. Um, he was another guy whose name kept coming up in training camp. So get an opportunity to get another look at this guy, and maybe he's that second tight end to Dallin Hooker for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future.
All right. Not mad at that.
Mm-hmm.
Next positions, O line, eight O
Mm-hmm.
linemen. The first five: Fuanga, Lucas Patrick, Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, Trevor Penn, and
Mm-hmm.
our draft picks, basically.
Yeah.
And the next four, we did not keep 9 on a roster, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of,
Surprising.
yeah, surprising, because usually you need you need 9. And you
Yeah.
told me something about Nick Saldivari.
Mm-hmm.
Injury?
Yeah, so I had him on he has injured, but I didn't know if he was gonna be somebody that we put on IR, but the fact that he wasn't put on IR, I think is a bit promising that he'll be ready by the
Mhm,
time the season comes, or at least in the next couple weeks, which is really good. Gonna be gonna start as a backup guard to Lucas Patrick. But I believe in the heart of hearts, they want to figure out if he's a guy they can establish in the future because there's a great old line class coming up in 2025. So
mhm,
we may see Nick Saldivari at some point this season.
mhm. And also
Um,
we Landon Young, he's very familiar.
mhm.
Most people know him in the Saints organization, and I don't want to butcher this guy's name. I'm gonna say his last name, Udo.
Udo. Udo.
Guard tackle.
Yeah.
Udo.
Yeah.
Alisa Mika.
Yeah.
Udo. But only 8. And I'm gonna read this description that they wrote up on here. This is the
Hmm.
thinnest group on the depth chart. We both agree.
Hmm.
If it's a surprise to see Hergel wave, there should
Hmm.
be a couple moves this week to bring in different backups and maybe some players who can push the start at right tackle or left guard. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem. That's very
Yeah.
blunt. And they say to start at right tackle or left guard. So that's Lucas
Yeah.
Patrick and Trevor Penning
Yes.
positions.
Yes.
Looking to start
Yeah.
after training
Um,
camp?
Yeah, and I believe Ross Jackson wrote this article, and this was something that he had been talking about for a while. Of hey, we can talk about the Trevor Penning and Lucas Patrick all we want, but there hasn't been anybody to supplant them yet. Now, I think in Lucas Patrick's case, I think Nick Saldivari is the guy that eventually takes over if Lucas
Yes.
isn't fitting the bill there, right? And maybe Udo and Landon Young are the guys that push Trevor Penning. And I know Kyle Hergel was a big favorite of Ross, and so he actually made our practice squad. I think he
Hmm.
gave up 1 pressure and 65 pass blocking snaps.
Hmm.
He's a guy at Boston College. Shane Lemieux, who I had on the main roster, so I had 9
I
offensive
know I was
linemen.
just about to
Would have
point
been
that out. I
8,
know you
but
liked
but
him.
yeah, but Shane made the practice squad. I think Aziram, who's our 7th round draft pick, made the practice squad. And I can't remember if it was Evans or Ankrum, but I know one of those two made the practice squad as well. And Jesse Davis was a cut, so we didn't bring him back.
Do you believe addressing the offensive line position through a trade is necessary? Or would you look forward to doing it if it was an opportunity?
I would say I would have to know more about who we're trading for. I
No, it's an
haven't.
established guy. It's not
Yeah.
a builder. It's an established
Okay.
guy.
I think it's an opportunity to get an established left guard. I think you go
Okay.
get him. Because I'm not too confident that we have the left guard of future on the roster. Lucas
Mhm,
Patrick is a veteran on a 1-year deal. Nick Saldivari just can't stay healthy. Like he's the offensive line version of Kendra Miller.
mhm.
And so there are a lot of young guys coming up in the 2025 draft that you could take a flyer on. But at the same time, it's like another year, another
Right.
offensive line 1st round pick. So that's the
Mhm.
only reason why I'm praying that
They've been shooting
uh,
too. We've been emptying our blanks with the offensive lineman, bro. We trying to
I'm
hit
just
on
praying
them.
somebody works out, bro. Like, especially be getting in a position where we need pass catcher or edge rusher or even quarterback. Who knows? Like,
Edge rusher.
you don't want to
Edge
be in a
rusher.
position. Yeah, like you don't want to be in a position where again, just because your offensive line is putrid, like you got
You got
to.
to draft another one.
Yeah, it's
I want to ask you this: outside of the roster cuts, we talk about this offensive line and defensive line misses. Do
Mhm.
you put that blame on Mickey in the front office on keep missing on offensive tackles? With Cesar Ruiz is not
Mm-hmm.
first round talent. I I should say that. Would you agree with
Yeah,
that? He's not a first. He was picked in the first round, but he hasn't
yeah,
shown consistency as a
mm-hmm.
first round player. What
Yeah.
is it? His third or fourth year?
They going on year 4. No, he hasn't shown it in the sense of the position that we drafted him
Right.
to play.
So,
I think had we started, I think if he played center naturally, he'd be
mhm,
one of the best at his position. But we put him at
right.
guard, so it's a learning
It's
experience.
the Saints. Trevor
Um,
Penning, we know he hasn't. We'll see
yeah,
this year. Hopefully,
hmm
um he was humbled last year with
yeah,
getting starting and getting benched, but he's at a new position again this year.
yeah,
So can you blame the Saints? With we have our thing with the Saints
yeah,
playing people at positions that they are not originally starting from in college. They're moving
yeah, for
tackle to
sure.
guard. So who do you put that on more? The front office, the player, both?
I put on both a little bit.
Hmm.
I think our scouting department, I think they're one of the best. I think we some of the draft picks we've had have hit.
Hmm.
So they do pretty well. But I do think when it comes to the trenches, we just kind of miss in
Yes.
the manner of I think we've tried to go after a lot of projects when, to be quite honest, we haven't been in a position to do that. And
Yes.
maybe during the Drew era, it made it seem like we were in a good enough position to get
Hmm.
projects, but we really weren't. And so when you have these premium picks, you want to get guys that one are going to be playing where you need them to play. They can contribute right away,
Hmm.
and you're going to get your bang for your buck pretty soon. And I just don't think we've seen that. And I think part of that is the scouting department and maybe not assessing properly how these guys can translate to the National Football League. But I also think part of that's on the player. I mean, if you are being drafted and you are being given an opportunity that not many people have, right? You got to figure it out. So whether that's
Hmm.
learning that position and playing to the best of your ability, whether that's staying available, I would argue that guys like Peyton Turner and Trevor Penning and even Marcus Davenport during his tenure, the big part was they weren't healthy, and it's kind of
Right.
like you're having to start everything from square one every time, every season.
Hmm.
When you would rather these guys be already ready, being those veterans that can kind of hit the ground running. And so,
And you go
because
ahead, finish.
Trevor Penning's first 2 years injuries, and
Right.
then not being good essentially in his first few starts. So like it's hard. Like so, I can't just blame one. I think it's
Uh-huh.
partially how we scout and how we bring guys to our team,
Hmm.
but also I think it's on the athletes. Like the DBs are figuring it out. Alante Taylor, it might not look pretty all the time, but he's figuring it out how to play in the slot.
Now, and I was just about to say that
Mm-hmm.
offensive line is tough, bro, because
Yeah.
defensive ends. I know everything is intricate and you got to be smart every position, but essentially
Mm-hmm.
a defensive end job is to rush the passer.
Yep.
Develop moves, pure strength to go get the pass rusher. Offensive lineman footwork is a big thing. And I just feel we haven't been hitting, man. Andrews Pete, Ruiz, Trevor
Mm-hmm.
Penning, Eric McCoy was a steal. We found him. They lucked up with him at
Yeah.
center because if that's a big reason Ruiz plays guard because Eric
Yeah.
McCoy emerged at center. So that was a good pickup there. And we hopefully Fuanga works out. We over here like we not worrying about the left tackle Fuanga, but we don't know. He's a
You
rookie.
don't know
We
you're
don't
a rookie, right?
we nobody mentioning him because we
Yeah.
picked him in the first round. Hopefully he works out, but if he's trouble on that side,
And
it's
what's
just gonna be a bad year, period.
and what's funny is he had a few kind of bad snaps
So
against the Titans, but we so focused on what Penning looked like,
yeah,
nobody
exactly.
worried about that. Because like I'm thinking about a play
Exactly.
where well they ended up calling it back, but like Jake like stepped into the pocket, rolled out, and then
Hmm.
hit A.T. Perry, and they said I guess he didn't get 2 feet, which I felt like he did,
Hmm.
but both tackles got beat and beat bad. So
But you know who we gonna look at
yeah,
because we trying
yeah,
to see the improvement from last year with Trevor Penning. Everybody just
right,
watching them like just like me and you watched that post that everybody every snap that Trevor Penning had, we watched it. I
yeah.
probably watched it 3 times. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like I was an offensive line coach. What can he do different? Like his leverage is not good, but we gonna find out. Eight offensive linemen though, but
Mm-hmm.
That's the opposite of the defensive line
Mm-hmm.
and the people who we know are gonna make it. Cameron Jordan, Carl Granderson, Chase Young, Isaiah Foskey, second round pick last year, first round pick Peyton Turner. Our
Mm-hmm.
two free agent acquisitions last year, Nathan Shepard, Kalen Saunders, first round pick. Brian Brzee was a first round pick, right?
Yep. Yep.
Brian Brzee, Christian Boyd, our guy, 7th round pick, a 6th round.
I think he was 6.
All right. And Kendall Vickers, defensive tackle. So 4 tackles and 6 DNs. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's about right. You had 3 D tackles, right? You didn't
I
have.
had I had 4. I think.
You had
I had
Shepard,
4.
Brzee, Kalen, and
I think we
Christian
ended up
Boyd.
having
So
5
five D
D
tackles.
tackles.
So
Yeah.
we had 5 D tackles and five
Mm-hmm.
defensive ends. Um, our guy passing no,
Passing
um,
one.
passing moi is on the pup list.
Yeah.
Um, that was the only problem I had with your projection. But you forgot him. But this looks like about right to me, other than the Kendall Vickers.
Mm-hmm.
Both us didn't mention
Yeah.
or have him, I believe. Do you have any info that you have on him that I'm not familiar with?
No, he would definitely wasn't a guy that stood out to me.
Oh, and
And
and it's
And the
crazy.
fact
Before
that,
you continue.
and it could be Colin Saunders' injury. He has a calf
Uh-huh.
injury. We don't know the degree of that. And we actually just traded for a defensive tackle from the Washington Commanders. So
Hmm.
I don't think Kendall Vickers really ran home. I just think they needed to add extra beef on a defensive line. And probably felt like they need to do it at defensive tackle as opposed to adding a guy like Nico Lalos, because if Tano gets back, in 6 or 7 weeks, you don't really need him. And he's a
Hmm.
guy we added on the practice squad anyway. So I can see Kendall Vickers being a guy that gets bumped back down to the practice squad, as it's alluded
And
to here, especially
that's
because we
just yep.
just spent draft capital on a defensive tackle trading maybe a few hours ago.
Yep. And that's basically what they say in this article here. A little surprising to see Vickers make the cut, and he might get pushed down to the practice squad in a few days. Nothing else here to see. We just need to see
Yeah,
production and health.
bingo.
Production and health. I'm looking forward to Brazil
Yeah.
this year, and I'm looking forward to Chase Young. Hopefully, he can bring something to this line that's been missing. I seen a few snaps like last year in the preseason that I did not like
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole D line, not Chase Young, the whole D line, where the quarterback just sitting back there 6, 7 seconds, and the cornerbacks did their job.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how? But they did it. I'd be like, ain't no way all these great wide receivers in the Saints are holding them down, man, for
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10 seconds. But to the linebackers, did
Yeah.
you knock this out the park? You didn't think Jalen Ford was going to make it because you haven't seen him a lot, but you definitely
Mm-hmm.
mentioned him. And he's the only guy outside of course, Willie, Pete, D. Davis, Orgy, and DeMarco Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Ford from Texas. He was a late pick. What pick was he? 7th,
I don't know if
5th,
it
or
was 7
7th?
round, but I know he was late.
I think he was 5th or
Really
7th, one
quick.
of them. But Jalen Ford,
Mhm.
he made the roster.
Yeah,
Do you think he gets special teams
I think so.
snaps?
I think he gets special team snaps. I know DeMarco will when he's a little bit healthier as well. I'm just
Mhm.
excited because remember, man, I was like, I really wanted to keep 6 linebackers. So the fact that we actually
Yes.
ended up keeping 6,
Uh-huh.
but I cut it off at 5. So if I were to have added a 6-1, I think adding Jalen Ford was a good idea, just with the draft capital you put into him. And
Mhm.
I think he's a guy that's really good. If he can stay healthy, get some more reps under his belt, he's a guy that I'd like to see a lot more on the field, not just special teams. So
I,
I'm excited. I'm happy we were able to get 6. Um,
I see.
so,
We know the Saints, like this article says, it's crazy.
yeah,
We saying what we thinking the same thing. Whoever wrote this, y'all thinking like us because the Saints do not play 3 linebackers. Like we
no,
alluded to earlier, we play a lot of 3 safety looks, but we
hmm
don't have that safety depth this year. So maybe we play 3 linebackers. Do you think they're
I
gonna
think
have Willie Gay rushing a passer more?
I do, and that's why I think we're gonna have some three linebacker lineup. I mean, these guys are too good, I think, to keep off the
Right.
field.
I
And
agree.
what all three of them bring, like I want to see lineups where we have all three on the field.
Mhm.
We play in a division where they gonna run the damn ball. Like that's just truth of the matter. And so you
They
want
will.
to kind of have some beefy lineups. Like, yeah, you can have some safeties on there for run support, some DBs, some other DBs. But if we can get away with some three linebacker looks, especially when you take into account Willie Gay's athleticism.
Pete,
If Pete's healthy, he's pretty athletic
rangy.
himself. So
Yep.
we can utilize that to our benefit. I'm interested to see how it looks. Like, yeah, we're going to use a lot of two linebacker looks, but I think they're all three good enough to where we gotta have
Yes, you
certain
have to.
packages where all of them on the field at the same time.
Right. And Willie Gay was our free agent acquisition.
He
Like
was.
he
Mm-hmm.
was one of the only ones we got in free agency. And I think he didn't come over here to sit on a bench. So hopefully he
Mm-hmm.
plays because he's a very, like you said, athletic guy, and we need athleticism on his defense, especially with dude threat quarterbacks. We need those guys out here who can make tackles in
Yeah.
open field. Like, and I love Orgy. I hope he sees the field. He's fast, he's rangy. I want to see him on the field as well because these linebackers, these young linebackers have a opportunity because Demario Davis is coming to the end of his career. If
Yeah.
most Saints fans haven't noticed. Um, I love D Davis. He's just getting to that point. I'm glad he came to us in free agency, but he's just losing a step. But he's still effective. But
Yep.
the young guys need to learn from him, and linebacker spot can be open within the next couple years, if not next year. It depends how Davis feels.
Mm-hmm.
But we're on to cornerbacks. Only five, my
Yeah.
brother.
Only
Only
five.
five, my brother. And Ugu Umadi is not there.
Yeah.
Our
Yeah.
guy. I had to write his name down before this because
Yeah.
I had to go check him out on Twitter and Instagram. Rico Payton made the roster. Couple standout plays last game. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think of him making that final spot or taking that
I
final
mean,
spot?
I like it. I mean, he definitely showed the ability to in the preseason, just being a guy that they didn't even throw at it a lot of times. So the fact
Mhm.
that in a preseason they're not even trying to test you, I think that shows just how good you are. Now, what I messed up on mine is, like I said, I was so used to Ugo being in the slot.
Yep.
Always thought of him as a cornerback, but he was technically listed as a safety and still got cut, which I know we'll go to in just a bit. But man, this is a good five. You got
Just our
Marshawn
best.
Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, Lante Kool-Aid, and Rico. I think Rico is probably more naturally outside guy. And,
Mhm.
Alante is our starting slot. Kool-Aid's been getting some reps in the slot. So if there's some shuffling going on, I think those are your two guys that can move there. And I know we have some guys at the safety position that have a little versatility there as well. They can play in the slot if need be. But this was good. I think it shows that, you know, if you play your behind off, you get rewarded, right? And I thought Rico was maybe a guy that might go to the practice squad and we just call up a lot, but he did enough, and that's good for him. So happy to have him a part of the roster.
Right. Cornerback is the Saints' best position. Um,
Yeah.
Sadly, in my mind, I think one of these guys will be gone next year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lattimore, Debo. Um, so y'all enjoy seeing them according to me for the last year. But whoever our cornerbacks coach is, he's great. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And Rico Payton, you might see some playing time with Marshawn Lattimore past injury. So stay ready so you don't have to get ready. I'm wishing
Amen.
health on you because I love you, brother. In the words of Trey, you are the warden. On to the safeties
Mm-hmm.
or safeties. And I see one special team, a full-time special teamer.
Mm-hmm.
I see a vet, Tyron Matthews, who's also a loser step. I see a young guy who's unproven, Jordan Howden. We love him, but he's unproven. And I see Will Harris. And I don't have no adjective for Will Harris, but Will Harris.
Yeah.
So, and on the outs, Jonathan Abram, Ugo Amadi, Rod, Roderick,
Mm-hmm.
Teamer, Lawrence, and Milliard Bradford. Milliard Bradford sounds like a chess team player, but we're gonna proceed. Four guys, Jonathan Abram, I assume will be on the practice squad.
Yeah.
So, do you think he'll be suited up game day? First, we'll touch on him.
And who was this? I'm sorry, I missed the name.
Jonathan Abram.
I think he will, because he did make the practice squad. So I think he's a guy who's going to end up suiting up. Like I told you, man, it was a surprise. Because I
Mhm.
had us with five safeties, I'm not mistaken. And for us to have four, which really you only had three because JT is exclusively special teams for the most part. Like if he's on the field at safety, something bad has happened. And we've been in that position a few times before. Where something bad
A
happens
Hail
while he
Mary.
out
Excuse me, y'all.
there.
A Hail Mary.
So I almost assume Jonathan Abram has to still be in it. Even Ugo Amadi made the practice squad, so I can see both
Mhm.
of those guys being call ups. I'm interested to see how they utilize Jordan Howden because I think the big discussion is he's a guy that's best at deep safety, and we
Mhm.
tried to mold him into that box guy, being a little bit more around the line of scrimmage. But I think he just has to grow as a tackler, a secure tackler. He can make tackles, but he has to grow there. And so do we utilize him a little bit more deep safety and kind of have guys like Tyrann
Tyrant.
Mathieu and Will Harris who do well around the line of scrimmage? Will Harris is a guy who has versatility that can play either corner spot and can play either safety spot. Had a stint in Detroit, so he's familiar with our system because shit, they got all our old coaches over there. Oh,
Aaron.
right.
Dan.
Yeah, man. But this was the biggest surprise, to be quite honest with you, because I just didn't expect those two names, Abram and Amadi, being released.
Mhm.
I didn't I thought they were shoe-ins, to be quite honest with you. Um,
Maybe it's the familiarity
yeah,
with the Saints. They know it probably was an understanding between them and the front office that hey, we're gonna bring
yeah,
on the practice squad. You still gonna suit up on game day, but we really I think it's really from the especially with Ugo Amadi. The cornerback position is locked, and Rico Payton just had a great preseason, so
yeah.
they know probably somebody was gonna snatch Rico up, and that's
Right.
why Ugo is on the practice squad. Um, let's get to the last of what is left. I think special teams. Yep, and
Yeah.
your wish has come true. Lou Haley is gone.
Hey, look, and I don't mean no disrespect by that, Lou. Great guy. I hear. Hope the family's doing well. I know
With
you
the
was like a
mullet,
26-year-old college student already with a family. So I hope
man.
y'all find something. I hope you find some level of employment. It just couldn't be in New Orleans anymore, my brother. I'm sorry.
Shout out to Matthew Hayball. Let's hope he brings some backspin punch to the Saints because last year was pretty lackluster from the
Yeah.
special team. I should say the special teams as a whole. Even Blake
Hmm.
Groupie, hopefully he tightens up. Blake Groupie is a talented kicker. He can make deep kick, but he just misses some routine ones, I should say.
Yeah.
But not too much with the special teams. The Saints did what they needed to do right here.
Mhm.
Obviously, he was underwhelming to say the least. But how do you feel about the roster cuts overall, brother?
Roster cuts overall, man, I'm fine with. I think the big
Mhm.
thing is I think we kept a lot of youth. And so I think that kind of signifies at least somewhat of a plan of, hey, we still want to be competitive, but we don't want to be an old team anymore either. And so I'm more excited about that. Like, will some of these young guys see the field? Um, and if they see the field, will they be able to maintain their spots, be contributors for what we hope is a playoff season at the very least?
Mhm.
So that's exciting. I think for the first time in a long time, you have I guess, hope in other areas outside of the secondary because that was probably the only position unit we had hope. You got hope now on the D line. I'm not talking
Uh,
about you, Isaiah Foskey, even though DA sees something in you. So we'll figure
Come
out if
on,
he can
Peyton
tap something
Turner and
out.
Chase Young. Peyton
Um,
Turner,
I, I
addition by
think
some
we're
trash.
I think we're seeing the youth movement in the linebacker room, which is good because Demario had been having to hold it down for so long.
Mhm.
Um, even in the tight end room, talked about Dallin Holker, but
I
even
love it.
Michael Jacobson, if he gets some run, he could
Mhm.
be a guy. They can be a good tandem there. And I think even in the running back room, even Jordan Mims, I think is like 24, 25, something like that, if that old. So we getting a little youth, and then if Kendra Miller can somehow find himself back into form, you got what a 21, 22-year-old running back, and Jordan Mims 24, 25.
What
So
you
there's a
just
little
did?
youth movement there. Yeah.
What you just did with Melly? What you just say about Kendrick Miller? Hopefully he gets back up and do what you did.
Yeah. I said if he can find his form, if he can find
Yeah,
his form,
please, if he
like,
can get back.
bro, like,
I got faith in you, Kendrick. Nobody
so
else got faith in you. I got faith in you,
he
brother.
has to. I don't have much faith in him staying healthy. I know what he is as a talent, but
Man,
talent don't mean nothing from the medical tent. So
Kendrick gonna be our Reggie Bush, man. Stop playing.
yeah, hopefully he better. Well, hopefully we use him better than we use Reggie. I'll tell you that much.
All right, man. All for the Saints, you guys. We're gonna get to a little news and some craziness in the wide receiver world. Ceedee
Yeah.
Lamb strikes his contract. Finally for the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones and Steven Jones gets it done.
Mm-hmm.
4 years, 136, and he's the second highest paid non-quarterback ever in the NFL, behind, of course, Justin Jefferson. And he makes 1 million per year more than Justin Jefferson, but his contract is $4 million less than
Mm-hmm.
Justin Jefferson.
I got you.
Do you think this is a overpay for CD?
It is. One, let's shout out again to the 4-year deals. Stay away
What?
from that number 5.
Come on, man. Teams and players.
It's an I would say this. It's an overpay in general, but it's not an overpay for the Dallas Cowboys. It's the price
Right.
that they had to pay.
Right.
And I think they feel good not having usurped Justin Jefferson's price tag
Mhm.
in it all. CeeDee Lamb to me is in the AJ Brown, Smitty, Waddle tiers, guys that are good number ones,
Mhm.
but elite number twos.
Okay.
Um,
You don't
and
think
granted,
AJ Brown
Smitty,
elite number one?
I think he's a good number one, but I think he'll
Okay.
be an elite number two. And
Okay.
and I think Smitty's a good number one. He's an elite number two, which is why
Hold up. Who's
he got
Smitty?
paid. Devontae Smith
Devontae? Oh,
over in Philly.
Devontae. All
So
right. I forgot you giving them Alabama
yeah,
nicknames out right now.
so yeah, my bad. So like guys that are elite wide receiver ones to me are the Devontae Adams of the world, Jamar Chase, the Justin Jefferson,
Tyreek.
Tyreek as well. Like he can get it done.
Mhm.
So those are guys that kind of hold that title for me.
Okay.
But CD last year was kind of his true test as the number one. Amari Cooper wasn't there anymore. You would get number one
Treatment.
attention, and he had one of his best years of his career. And if you're not going to pay him as a Dallas Cowboys, who do you have? A
Exactly.
lot is riding on this year for them, and you got to pay your guys. I get what they're doing with the Dak Prescott situation, but you got to pay CD and you got to pay Michael Parsons eventually as well. Those are the two cornerstones for your franchise until maybe you get a new quarterback or you and Dak find some common ground on an
Or they go a
extension
new direction. Period.
or they go a new direction, right? So I felt like Dallas had to pay him this. And in their minds, I would say you should see this as a steal because you didn't have to reset the market again.
Mhm.
Justin Jefferson set the market. I think anybody's looking for a new deal should find themselves under that market. But you can also be smart in terms of how long your contract is, so you can hopefully cash in again pretty soon while you're still young.
I agree. One thing I want to say about the CD
Mm-hmm.
extension, when I see a lot of deals, because I think Justin Jefferson is the top of the top.
Mm-hmm.
I understood when Tyreek wanted to redo his contract after he seen Justin's, because I view Tyreek just a tad under Justin. I think Justin is the best, but I view Tyreek right probably a couple notches under Justin. But I
Mm-hmm.
understand that Tyreek he was in the MVP discussion last year, was going for 2,000 receiving yards, and Tua relies heavily on
Yes.
Tyreek to look how he looks. So, but CD, I view CD as a top 10ish receiver, not no top three,
Yeah.
top, not like that. So, giving him, even though I understand how it goes, your next up, you get your paper, but I think it's a overpay. But
Yeah.
when you wait this long, that's what happens when you're the Cowboys. So
Yeah.
hey, and a small little detail as well. They also signed Delvin Cook today. I don't know
I
if you've
did see
seen
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, signed Delvin Cook. They say he will start off on the practice squad. Their running back room is really bad. Well,
It's old.
thin.
They got
Yes,
one young guy and they got two old guys that's
right.
trying to
One
step
young
in.
guy, and he's about 5'7".
Mm-hmm.
But Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook, and I'm forgetting the young guy
It's like
name.
Rico Dowden or something like Dowdle, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. So they needed that. Dalvin Cook, I think he'll be suiting up very soon. I think he'll be off that practice squad very soon.
Mhm.
But do you take anything away from Dalvin Cook going to the Cowboys in this late?
Not really.
No.
I don't think it adds much to them. Hopefully, he
Mm-hmm.
can find some consistent footing. But I think of the three running backs we talked about, he's the odd man out. I think
Mm-hmm.
Rico, the way he kind of made Tony Pollard expendable. So I think
Yep.
there's going to be he might start off as kind of their true number one running back, and I think Ezekiel kind of gives you that kind
Power
of
runner.
big thumper power running back. And Dalvin just kind of with some of the injuries and everything. I don't know if he has one of his best traits was that breakaway ability.
Yep.
So if he feels like he's healthy and he still has that in him, that could be a dynamic that helps.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dak Prescott is going to need it. I think a lot has been asked to him throwing the ball. So trying to build a little bit more of a run game could be beneficial. But I don't know how much Dalvin Cook adds to them in terms of, I guess, net value. Like I don't feel
Mm-hmm.
any different about the Cowboys today than I did yesterday because
Right.
he's
Just
out.
not 3 years ago, Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
It's
then
basically
I'll
not.
be terrified.
Right. Before we, you know what? Before we get to our next wide receiver, I want to ask you this.
hmm
Still no team for Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I mean, I think until we know anything about his health wise and like where he is in his rehab process, I think you're probably going to see that.
Mm-hmm.
And the teams aren't necessarily under an entire amount of pressure to bring in veteran wide receivers right now,
Mm-hmm.
and especially ones with his resume. So I don't think that's going to be something that happens in the first few weeks. But as we
Mm-hmm.
go throughout the season, I think there's going to be some possible contenders that just need to add a guy to their room that could help. Think of the Chiefs, think of the Ravens, think of the Miami Dolphins. Now, some people are saying the Falcons. I don't think that's a thing, but there's going to be
Oh,
some teams that just need a guy that can help for a postseason run, which might be
mm-hmm.
good for him because that gives him time to rest and he can be his healthiest during the
Mm-hmm.
playoff push for that team.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Moving off our old crush, we got problems in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase.
Yeah,
Now he supposedly is holding out for a new deal. He's seen Justin Jefferson get his bag. He just seen CD Lamb get his bag. He's seen Tyreek restructure. He's seen St. Brown. He's seen all these deals. Waddle. He's seen
Mhm.
Smitty. He just seen all this money come up. And his look like the Bengals, I should say, are known for being a kind of
Cheap.
cheap team. So T. Higgins isn't paid. The only guy who broke the bank so far is Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
And I'm not. I'm pretty. Did they resign Trey Hendrickson? Because they did not want to resign, and I remember him on the trade block.
I don't think he's resigned yet.
I'm gonna pull
I
it up,
don't
but
think. Pull that up.
trouble is in paradise over here with Joe Burrow, two receivers.
Yeah.
So who do you think has more leverage? I should say.
I think Jamar Chase has more leverage just because he's the best wide receiver
Mm-hmm.
on the team. And keep in mind, like you mentioned, T. Higgins is wanting a new deal. Tyler Boyd is gone. He's in Tennessee now. And at some point, Joe Burrow is going to walk into that building and be like, y'all better pay somebody. I would love you to pay both of them, but
Mm-hmm.
you better pay at least one of them because I'm not about to deal with this. This is a guy coming off of an injury that
Mm-hmm.
pretty much ended his season last year. You don't want him having to throw to guys that typically would be on the third and fourth string on their roster. Like y'all got to get it together. Definitely get Jamar Chase taken care of. I
Mm-hmm.
think now that Ceedee's deal is out of the way, I think there's a market there where you can kind of decide where Jamar fits in between Ceedee and Justin Jefferson.
What
I
is
know if you
that? A
ask him
half a
today,
million?
probably if that's what it takes. I'm pretty sure if you ask him, he'll say I deserve more than Justin because I'm better than him, and you might be
Mm,
right, but the resume says you are not.
all right.
With what Justin Jefferson has been able to do from the individual standpoint,
Also with
accolade wise,
quarterback play.
and the quarterback play. So I had Kirk Cousins, you had Joe Burrow. So
Mhm.
and not too many people are saying Kirk Cousins is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So with all that considered, I think Cincinnati might be in the right to not reset the market,
Mhm.
but much like in the CeeDee Lamb situation, you might be stuck. And in their case, they may have to reset the market because
All right.
you're probably going to lose T. Higgins,
Mhm.
and you already lost Tyler Boyd. Joe needs his pass catchers. And maybe one of the reasons why they're trying to be iffy with Jamar's deal is that I think they really want to keep both of them
Mhm.
and find a price where both of them are happy. But you can't pay two
Wide
30
receivers and
plus
your
million dollar.
quarterback making 300 million.
Like, that's ridiculous. You can't, not in the quarterback league. Like, you can't pay
Right.
your two
It's gonna be
receivers
hard
that
to
much money when you
gonna be
got a
hard to fill that
quarterback.
roster out.
Mm-hmm.
And an update on the trade. Henderson, he is not resigning. He just returned to practice last week. Well, this week.
Okay.
So he's 29 years old. He left the Saints. Remember in 2021, he signed that
Yeah.
4-year, $60 million deal, but he has not re-signed with them. So that is another guy who wants some money.
Yeah.
Because
What
I
they
do
want?
remember him requesting a trade.
Yeah, what they want for old T Rex? What's the asking price over there? Let me figure out what that
Man,
is.
so the Bengals got a lot of things. They got some signings to get done. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, maybe Chase get done before week 1. They have a week and a half.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm sure it's going to come in around that 138, 140-ish Justice Jefferson number. So, but that's all the news for the day, y'all. A couple wide receivers getting a deal. Well, one wide receiver getting his wish granted, and one is he's ready
Fine.
to get his wish granted. Yeah. But y'all let us know about the Saints roster cuts. Who surprised y'all? Couple surprises with the Rico Payton and the 6 linebackers. That was really
Mhm.
a big surprise for the Saints because y'all know we do not play that many linebackers. But also, we picked Christian Boyd beginning for our rookies. Who's
Mhm.
your guy to watch out after you seen these roster cuts? Who you think gonna make an impact?
For the Saints,
Mm-hmm. Offense or defense?
I really want to see Jordan Mims
Mm-hmm.
offensively. On defense, I'm gonna stay with Christian Boyd. Knowing
Okay.
knowing the Saunders injury, yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
just drafted for another defensive tackle, but you're a guy we invested a pick in. I want to see if he gets some substantial playing time,
Okay.
and how he looks next to Brazil, if
Mm-hmm.
that even happens.
Depending on, unfortunately, I don't think um Christian is going to get that much playing time, especially
Mhm.
with Cam taking some DT snaps.
Fair
And
point.
we have a log jam at DN, and not that it's a log jam of like superstars, but it's a log jam of guys who's trying to prove something this year. We have Chase
Mhm.
on it trying to get a deal, Peyton trying to get a deal, um, Cam getting pushed out, Carl Granderson trying to prove he deserves that deal from last year. So I would like to see I would like to see Orgy at the linebacker position get some PT.
Mhm. Okay.
I'm intrigued with him. But I do love Christian Boyd. I would like to see him. I could have just went easy with the Brazil, but I think he's gonna be a standout player for us
Yeah,
anyway.
for
So,
sure.
but I want to see Orgy get some PT, and I think it's gonna make a difference if he gets out there. But it's gonna be pretty hard for him to get some play time as well with our 3 linebackers in front of him. But any last words for the people, bro?
Man, look, it's the season's almost here. I'm looking forward to next week when we get to talk about our Saints schedule revision and also kind of talk about maybe some preseason predictions um, for
Okay.
what's going to happen in the NFL this year. So looking forward to that.
We both remember, y'all. We both pegged the Saints at 10 wins. Do
Mhm.
you want to do another schedule before the schedule comes out? Since you see the final roster.
Yeah, we definitely
Yeah.
gonna do one. Now,
Okay.
I think I'm still might be end up coming at 10. I just think it might look a little bit different than what I
Matter of
originally.
fact, I think we can. I think we can get a show done where we predict the divisions.
Yeah.
Who we think gonna win the divisions around the league. I think we can do something like that, and y'all
Yeah.
could chime in and let us know. But that's it, you guys. Bayou Ballers. August will be over next time we see y'all. We'll see y'all in September. Virgo season is approaching.
Virgo season.
Virgo season is here, but the real Virgo's approaching,
You
man.
know.
September Virgos. Y'all know what's but we're out, y'all. Y'all have a good night. Bye.